Greetings, and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. Today, we will be covering the Epoch of Pain, covering all paths and every fight. If you need more information than what is provided here, I would highly recommend Simula's guides. I'll link them in the description. These are the guides I used, so if you want to have the same information I did going in, these are the ones I'd recommend. And with that, let's dive in. Before we have a look at the individual paths, we need to have a look at the structure of the whole quest. There are 4 paths here, but you will have to run it 6 times. You need to run the outer 2 paths once each, and the inner 2 paths twice. There are also rarity gates and class gates, depending on where you go. So for example, out to the left, you must bring a science and tech team, not just champion, the whole team of 3 must be science and tech. You then move into the rarity gates, such that they are 2 7-stars and 3 7-stars. So if you're planning your teams, you need at minimum 2 7-stars, but if you've already been out that way, you may need to consider what you used last time as well. If you're unsure, bring all 7-stars. That way for your next path, you are safe and can bring 2 7-stars and 1 6-star if required. This might sound a bit confusing, but once you go into the quest and have a look around, it becomes fairly self-explanatory. Right, onto the paths. First up, path 1 is a science and tech path. This is out to the left, far left path, number 1. Here we have Hulkling, Absorbing Man, Doom, Onslaught, Jessica Jones, and Jabari Panther. Each path also has an extra node on top of everything else that's going on, and the node on this path is Hurt Locker. You've probably seen this node many times before. If you throw the same special twice in a row, a 5-second timer will start. If you knock the opponent down with a heavy whilst that timer is on you, all good, the timer goes away. If the timer goes all the way around, you will lose 50% of your maximum health. Ouch. Let's break down the defenses. First up is Hulkling. There are a whole bunch of nodes on this guy, but it basically boils down to the fact that you need to knock him down, as this will disable his protection, and then you want to be using a hero champion to throw specials into his block. They will do massive damage if you do it like this, and with really not too many, you can actually get him down at least a long way. The problem is you've got to juggle things like his indestructible, and also the invade node means his block damage is going to be very nasty, particularly once he starts building Pierce, which he does on blocked hits, combined with the fact that he's got his special 1, so more indestructible, more regen from him generating things faster that way. It can be a tough fight, but not the worst on this path, in my opinion. Really practice heavy countering his special 2. If you can push him there, you'll be doing very nicely. Personally, I used Silk for this fight, and she did a very, very good job of it. You don't get the burst damage on a special 1 or special 2, but the nodes help make up for that. Second up on this path, we have Absorbing Man, and he has actually been changed slightly since the original Absorbing Man came out a very long time ago. Don't worry, it's beneficial. It's the same change that he was given in his Gauntlet, rather than when it was just him by himself, and that is adding the Always Forward node to him. This means that whatever health he starts at, he cannot heal past that. So if you've got him down to 40%, and he's starting to massively heal, it could be worth quitting out. I did. And going again, which means next time he'll be locked at 40% because the regeneration on this guy is tough. He will be regenerating a lot. The nodes here make him very tricky to fight. He's immune to all damage over time effects, and this just includes any form of red burst damage is included here. So with champions like Silk, big burst on the special 1, special 2. Nope, you can't use that. Whenever you parry him, you will armor break him. This will give him his charges, which is bad because he's also armor break immune. Aggression Precision combined with No Hit Mercy means that even a singular tap into your block, whilst he's in his refined Uru form, which he will be a lot, can probably kill you. It can deal over 100,000 damage quite easily if he just touches your block, so be really, really careful. You've also got Brute Force and Fight or Flight to deal with, which are just not particularly fun. The important node to also remember here is Adaptive Override. He can change the damage type you do, and remember Abs in Uru form has massive physical resistance, and in Magma form has massive energy resistance. You want to be doing the other one, so you get your damage through. Personally, I used Hulk here, went to special 3, stun locked him, got him down to about 40%, quit out, did the same thing again. I would much rather use 1 revive guaranteed than let him start healing up all over again. Very good option for this fight. Silk probably could have done it as well. Her slow also working very, very nicely. Up next, we have Idoom. He's not too bad. Make sure you don't bring someone with too many buffs, and you don't bring someone that is shock immune. If you are shock immune, then you're going to be taking a hell of a lot of damage. He also has cosmic shielding, which means if you have 3 or more buffs on you, then, well, unique buffs I should say, then you can't do any damage to him, so keep your buff count low. Run and gun will give you extra damage, which is very, very nice. He's also immune to armor breaks, and you can't nullify him. The main way you want to deal with this fight is he's got special 1 bias, so he'll be spamming a lot of special 1s. But he's also got cross counter, which means anytime he throws a special attack, you need to knock him down within 10 seconds, or, well, you're going to take a huge burst of damage, which is bad. However, if you punish his specials, you gain a grit passive, which means you can bypass unstoppable, and that's really important because he has an aura, much like Dr. Doom himself, which means you can't knock him down while that aura's up. Actually, how it works is they go unstoppable when you hit them, so gaining a grit passive, which bypasses unstoppable, allows you to knock them down. I used Silk for this fight. She was very, very good, because not only have you got the safety net of her auto-evade, we can chain the stun from her heavy, so you just dash in after his special attack, special 1 most likely. Easy heavy, didn't have any issues with this fight. Up next, we have Onslaught, and oh do I hate this fight. Mainly because I'm just bad at fighting Onslaught, but there are lots of things here that really don't help us. Stylish is the first node, which gives you lots of extra combo, which you'd think would be good, but actually it just gives Onslaught more uptime on his crush debuff, which is very annoying. He's also got Dulled, which means for every buff on you, it reduces your critical chance, which is bad. Pass the Buck means that you will be power stung every 10 seconds, but you can remove it by intercepting Onslaught. However, Onslaught doesn't like to be intercepted much in this fight. The AI is a bit clunky, and Onslaught in general I find fighting him a bit clunky, so just watch out for the power sting. Heavy hitter means he's unstoppable during his heavy attacks, so no baiting heavies to get easy openings. He also has decorative armor, meaning he starts the fight with an armor up buff, giving him 1 armor rating. If it's removed, it comes back after 5 seconds. This is basically a relic from the original one, where Kapow were worried that people were going to use Havoc and cheese the fight. We can't bring Havoc here, this is a science and tech path, so effectively irrelevant. We do have a node that will help us, which is Missed Opportunity, which is every time you dex any part of his special attack, and we have shorts covering exactly how to dex both of Onslaught's specials, you will gain additional energy resistance buffs. This will reduce your damage via the dulled node, but energy resistance, when you can get up to 90% energy resistance, meaning his neuroshocks won't be doing too much damage. Effectively, this is just a really chunky Onslaught. He's got a lot of health, you've got to watch out for the power stings, your damage is going to be brought down, but you've got the energy resistance to help you. Learn how to fight Onslaught, and you'll be okay. You will have to perhaps do a lot of intercepting, because, parrying Onslaught is very difficult. I used Titania in this fight, I think it cost me 2 or 3 revives. I'm fine with that. If you want to be better than me, by all means. But Titania, damage nuke, she does a good job. Up next, we have Jessica Jones. I've seen some people complaining about this fight. I don't find it too bad. Let's see what's up. Firstly, our spirit gain, that's the sort of relic power, is increased by 50%. I like to hold my relic in this fight, and I'll explain why in a moment. Cold turkey means shrugging is bad, but there aren't that many science or tech shruggers, so we don't have to worry about that. Special burst lockdown will heal, block, and armor break you every time she throws a special attack. Not a big deal, because we're not bringing shruggers anyway. Dawn of Protection is perhaps one of the bigger nodes here, which means every 14 seconds she will gain a damage reduction passive, which is 30%. Obviously, let these stack up, you're going to have problems. However, you do a medium ending combo, you can remove one, heavy attack will remove the second one, and a special attack will also remove them. You can do them in any order, but you have to do all 3 of them before you can repeat them. So this is why I hold my relic. That makes it very easy for me to throw a heavy attack whenever I need to. Shed Skin means that whenever you gain a bar of power, a 10-second timer starts. If that timer expires, Jessica Jones will gain a 10-second debuff immunity passive, which is not great. Knock her down to remove the timer. Stoppable is the same node that we saw on Idun, punish her special attacks to gain grit. This is very, very helpful and something you want to keep up at all times because it doesn't take very long for Jessica Jones to be going unstoppable for a long time after she throws a lot of, well, not that many special attacks actually. She'll go unstoppable very, very quickly. Keep the grit, you'll be fine. But the best node in this fight is critical interruption. If you intercept her, you get guaranteed crits. And this combines with Crit Me Baby one more time, which gives you 30% more crit damage, though it does reduce your non-crits by 60%. This means you can inflict a lot of damage very quickly just by intercepting her, and this can make this fight go very, very quickly. Combo Party, we've seen quite a few times. Every 10 hits, you get a critical damage buff. Again, combines with the previous nodes, but if you get hit, you're going to lose all of them and take a big burst of damage. If you can intercept well, this fight really isn't too bad. I used Titania. She did alright. Last up on the path, we have Jabari Panther. She also comes with the always forward node, meaning that she can't heal beyond what she started the fight at, which is quite good because Vital Strikes is one of her nodes, meaning she will heal 700% of any damage she inflicts into your block. Diversion is just the falter version of Fight or Flight. Every 15 seconds, you are inflicted with a falter passive, causing you to miss. However, if you are far away from her, she will gain it instead. But do remember that whilst she's in her hunt mode, she can't miss. So just be careful, don't rely on it too much. The problem in this fight comes from the fact that Jabari Panther will naturally gain cleanse charges whenever she tries to attack you, and the Scrubbed Clean node will give her additional cleanse charges on a timer, though you can reset this timer by doing light ending combos. Good to stick with those here. This all comes around as a problem because of the second wind node, and whenever she cleanses something, you're going to be taking lots of damage. Well, you'll be taking 50% of the damage you deal to her. So either you've got to back off, which means she's just going to gain more cleanses from the thing, or you've got to tank a bunch of damage. So you want to be bringing champions that don't inflict lots of debuffs, or be careful how they do. Putting her on a science path can make this quite tricky. I used Hulk for this fight, and actually he did very well. Go to Special 3 to gain your massive physical vulnerability when she doesn't have cleanse, and then Stun Locker when she doesn't have cleanse. There are many, many good tech champions that could also take this fight. I've seen a lot of people take it with Prowler, who I just sort of don't have access to properly at the moment, or I'm not confident in my prowling. He is naturally falter immune, so you can bypass that part of the fight, and doesn't inflict any debuffs apart from his parry stun. So again, you can bypass a lot of the fight just by doing light ending combos with him. If you're comfortable with your prowling, he's a very good option. After every path, we do have to face Ares. I will cover Ares at the end. He is interesting. Right, path 2. The science and tech, as well as cosmic and skill, Nebula path. First up, we have Nebula. The global on this path is critically important, and that is death by debuffs. The defender cannot take any damage you deal to them. However, they will take 2% of their maximum health every time you inflict them with a debuff, though there is a cooldown of 1 second. What this means is you need champions that can inflict debuffs, and lots of them. Let's see how that impacts things. First up, we have Nebula. She is immune to ability accuracy modification, and also has the Galvanized node. What this means is she will start the fight. If you hit her block, you will be shocked, and it's quite a nasty shock. But that will eventually rotate, such that she goes unblockable, and then back again. So, lots of parries, and careful playing, while she's going to shock you, and then remember that she's unblockable in the unblockable phase. Gimme Shelter means that she has a 90% chance to auto-block you. However, that is reduced by 15% for each buff on you. Once you've reduced it all the way to 0, it does mean that you can't break her block with a heavy, but that's not hugely important. So we need buffs and debuffs for this fight. Outside in means that if you're far away from her for too long, you'll be rooted. This isn't a big issue. Cold Turkey means if you purify or cleanse any of the debuffs, you take a bunch of damage, which is, again, not a big deal. And Even Punishment means that whenever you stun her, a buff is nullified off both of you, and this can be an issue. When I ran this with the Science and Tech path, I brought Sentry here. Sentry is phenomenal for this path. You just stick in your base form and hit them. You stay at Special 3. If you take some damage, throw your Special 3, Adrenaline healing all of that damage back, and then gain a big stack of regenerations as well. Sentry is phenomenal, and I believe can take every fight on this path, even as 7-star rank 1. He inflicts debuffs on every hit, and if you do charge him up, you don't need to. If you die, he loses a charge. If you don't die, you gain charges. You will eventually be able to chain your heavies from your basics as well, and that can be very useful for fights later on. Sentry does an excellent job here, but you can also use champions like Titania Silk. When you're doing the Science and Tech path, when you're doing this Cosmic and Skill, I'd recommend Null or Scream. They are both excellent. You might need some extra buffs, so you can always bring an Odin as well. Next up, we have North Star, and this fight can be a little annoying. Again, we've got death by debuffs to deal with, but we also have Power Shield, which is fine, but Fist of the North Star is quite annoying. This means you can only throw your own special attacks whenever you're doing a dash in or you punish the defender's heavy or special. This can make throwing your special attacks quite annoying, and punishing his heavy or special is extra annoying by unnatural selection, meaning every time he throws a special attack, which he will be throwing a lot of, he will gain an untouchable passive for 2 seconds. If you can intercept well, this fight isn't too bad, but we do also have Bubble Shield to deal with, meaning after 10 hits, he will go unblockable for 1 hit, even if that hit doesn't make contact. But with his, 13 base hit combo and a huge number of hits on his Special 1 and Special 2, this can actually come round quite quickly. For the Science and Tech path, I use Deathless She-Hulk here, as she can't miss once she's inflicted her Fear debuff. Fear has nothing to do with miss, it's a unique mechanic of Deathless She-Hulk, but she did a phenomenal job on this path, because it's very easy to heavy counter his Special 1, so you just heavy counter him, and then do extra debuffs damage. Power Shield here doesn't actually do anything, because it's all death by debuffs. When I did it on the Cosmic and Skill path, I used Null. He was less good for this fight. All I did basically was just hit into his block once. You got a 75% chance of inflicting your Living debuff, or Living Abyss debuff, sorry. So you just hit into his block, hope he dashes back, hit into his block, and just rinse and repeat. It was a slow and pretty painful fight, but I think it only cost me 1 or 2 revives. Up next, we have Destroyer. Make sure you can Dex Destroyer's Special 2. Otherwise, this fight might get a little bit nasty. You can still absolutely do it, it's just painful. In this fight, we have a few things to deal with, but actually they're not... If you can fight Destroyer, you won't have too many issues with this path. Firstly, whilst he's unstoppable, he also goes stun immune, which is quite annoying. Normally you can just parry him when he's dashing in, but we again have that stoppable node. If you punish his heavy attack in this fight, you will gain a grit passive, allowing you to bypass his unstoppable. And heavy bias means he likes to throw a few more specials. Not much, but a bit. The Destroyer does have Special 1 bias, meaning he's more likely to be spamming his Special 1, and you are also rooted during his Special 1, but this is a good thing. When you Dex properly, not just evade, but properly trigger Dex against the Destroyer, he doesn't gain his annoyance charges. If he gets to 100 of the... I can't remember what they're called, they're just annoyance charges to me. When he gets to 100 of his charges, he gains a massive power gain, which is why Dexing his Special 2 is very useful. We also have Danger Zone to deal with. That means he will go unblockable every 12 seconds, but if you're far away, you gain that unblockable instead. It's not a big deal, really. If you can fight Destroyer, this fight isn't too bad. We do have to note that there is a common misunderstanding going around at the moment, which is champions with lots of buffs can't do this fight, and that is not true. Destroyer's signature ability does mean that for every buff on you, the Destroyer will deal you a portion of the damage you deal to him back to you as instant rupture damage. However, you cannot deal any damage to him in this fight, because Death by Debuffs deals it for us. You do not take additional damage for having lots of buffs on you, so proved by the fact I used Sentry for this path, who will probably have 20 buffs on him at all times. Sentry, phenomenal for this fight. For the Cosmic and Skill path, I used Null, pretty much just the same tactic that I used for Northstar. Tap his block to inflict Living Abyss, and just very slow play the fight. Cost me a couple of revives, that's fine for my standard of play, but he does alright there. Again, we just need someone with lots of debuffs. I wouldn't recommend Scream for this fight, because she inflicts bleeds and armor breaks, which Destroyer is immune to both of. But again, any other champion that inflicts lots of debuffs is absolutely fine. You could use Silver Sable, she was my other champion that I brought on the Cosmic and Skill path. For Science and Tech, you've got so many options. Titania and Silk are the big two. Hulk could probably take it as well. Up next, we have Photon, and if you hate fighting Photon, you're going to hate this fight as well. But there are actually very, very few nodes. Energetic overconfidence means that you can't gain power by hitting her or being hit, but you will generate 15% of a bar of power per second. When you gain to 3 bars of power, all of the power is removed and you lose 50% of your max health, but this is combined with the Langer node that means whenever you reach 0 power, you're dealt a huge burst of damage. So getting to special 3, it's very bad in this fight because it'll probably instantly kill you. Now this isn't too bad because they just give us the power over time, right? So we can just dump specials. Well, stage fright comes into play, which means when you throw a special attack, a 15-second timer starts. Nothing to worry about so far, but yeah, if you throw another special attack whilst that timer is on you, guess what? It's a big burst of damage to you. Well, this is, degen, but close enough. So how do we dump our power? Well, in this fight, we also have the Flabbergasted node. Whenever you strike Photon, there's a 10% chance that you'll be disoriented. That'll just fuel her charges further. But whenever you hit her block with a light attack, you are inflicted with a 150% petrify for 8 seconds, and you can use this to slowly reverse your power gain. Make sure you don't hit 0 or the Langer node will take you out. But this is also a problem because this stacks. So if you do 2 hits into her block, your power will be draining very rapidly. So I would recommend for this fight, get to about special 2, drop your special 2, continue to gain power, and then once you're back at about special 2, do 1 hit into her block to gain the petrify to start bringing your power back down again. You do also have to deal with the fact that this is a big Photon. If you hate fighting Photon, you're going to hate this fight as well. I used Titania when I was doing it on the the Science and Tech path, and on the Cosmic and Skill path I used Silver Sable. She did very well. She was only 7-star rank 1 for me, but she did alright. Titania did a very good job because she's Titania and she can kind of just tank anything. A rough fight if you are a bit rusty with Photon, so do make sure to brush up on her first. Up next we have Adam Warlock. Again, always forward, so no extra healing over what he started with, but again, another fight we need lots of buffs, and here we have buffed up 2, meaning he takes 100% less damage unless you have 3 buffs on you. If you don't have big buffy champions, for example, I brought Null again for this fight, but I also brought Odin to provide him 3 extra buffs. So Odin is an easy way around for this fight if you're doing the Cosmic and Skill path. Here we also have Don't Interrupt Me, which means intercepting him with any medium attack nullifies all non-armor up buffs on you as the attacker and deals a bunch of damage to you for each buff nullified. And if you're using Odin and you can't get those buffs back, this is basically a game over. Remember that Sentry can also go unblockable if he hits your block a couple of times, so be very careful if you need to parry this guy. We also have On the Prowl to deal with, which means you are special locked for 1 second every time you gain a bar of power. This kind of feels like you're fighting Nimrod with what he does, it just means you can't combo into special if you push yourself over a bar of power. We'll see why that's important in just a moment. Adam has special 2 bias, meaning you'll see lots of special 2s, which is okay. He's only Sig 1, which means hitting into his pod doesn't have a very high chance to stun you, but we can also get round that from one of the other nodes. We've just got to make sure we keep it in mind. We also have Power Alternator, which means every 15 seconds, if you have more power than him, your powers are swapped. If he has more power than you, they are not. So, screw you, I guess. Finally, we have Golden Barbed Opportunity. Whenever Adam finishes a special attack, the 4-second timer starts, unless it's already active. Or if there is a Soul Barb effect on either champion. Seems random, we'll see why it's not in a moment. If you hit Adam with a heavy or special attack whilst the timer is on you, he gains a Soul Barb on him for 10 seconds. If the timer expires though, you get that Soul Barb. And remember, buffed up forces you to have buffs, so that Soul Barb is going to be hurting. The Soul Barb also means that Adam cannot stun you when you hit into his pod, so that is another way around that. Again, low SIGs, the chances aren't high, but don't let it catch you off guard. The problem is that death by debuffs on this path means that the Soul Barb does no damage, which is very annoying. So every time he throws a special, which is probably going to be the special 2, make sure you drop a heavy attack or a special attack, and remember that you don't have to knock him down with it, so it's fine even if he's in his pod. On the Science and Tech path, I use Sentry here phenomenal. On the Cosmic and Skill path, I used Null. Again, with Odin buffs. If you've got Scream, she'll manage just fine by herself. If you want to use other Cosmics that inflict lots of debuffs, you might need to bring Odin as well, but Cosmics tend to gain plenty of buffs of their own. Null is just strange like that. Last up on the path, we have Aegon. I don't like this fight. A lot of people don't like this fight. So if you are tilted from the 5 fights before, perhaps take a breather before this fight, refresh your boosts, and just, take a moment. So, remember, this is Aegon we're fighting. And he starts with 1,000 hits on his combo meter, and we can't reset his combo. Which effectively means he's going to crit like mad, go unstoppable a lot, and go unblockable whenever he tries to hit you. So, watch out for that. His block damage is also insane if for whatever reason you can block unblockables. But we can also gain a reinforce passive by intercepting him with a basic attack. And this is pretty good, because not only can you block unblockable attacks with it, it also increases your block proficiency by 10,000. So intercepting here is the name of the game. You've got to intercept this guy, or you're going to have issues. Whenever Aegon finishes a special attack, he will also go debuff immune, which means stunning him is quite difficult. This is on a short timer. I think it's 6 seconds. Yeah, but it's also reduced by 2 seconds for each debuff he removes on him. So if he has lots of debuffs on him, he'll just blip them all off, and there'll be no debuff immunity timer. Cross counter is where the problems start to arise. This is quite similar to the Soul Barb Golden Opportunity node we just saw on Adam Warlock. Whenever the defender, that's Aegon, finishes a special attack, unless the timer is already active, you've got 10 seconds to knock them down, not just hit him, but knock him down with a heavy attack, but not a special attack. And guess what? Big burst of damage for you if you don't manage to do it. And heavy countering Aegon's specials is tough. Special 2 is fine, Special 1 is rough. This is compounded by the fact that every 8 seconds you gain a cement charge, and once you get to 3 of those, you're rooted. If he throws his Special 1 whilst you are rooted, it's basically game over. However, you can remove these charges whenever you block an attack. So you need to intercept him to get the reinforce passive, and then block him to remove these cement charges. He does also have Kinetic Reactor, meaning you can hit into his block and gain power, and Free Spirited will be increasing your spirit gain rate as well, meaning more strikers. Strikers can be very helpful for being able to knock him down after his special. If he throws a Special 1, punish it, striker, knock him down like that. This will be a long, slow, tedious fight, and it may introduce some serious tilt. If you come up with a really awesome strategy or counter, please do let me know down in the comments. I used a mixture of Sentry and Titania for this fight. I also had Deathless She-Hulk. I don't think I ran him with her, personally. Can't remember. I don't think I used her in this fight. But yeah, Sentry and Titania still could be amazing as well. But again, Null or Scream would be fantastic for the Cosmic or Skill path. After Aegon comes Ares. We'll cover him later. Right, halfway there. Path 3, which will be runs 4 and 5, is the Cosmic Skill and Mutant and Mystic Cassie Lang path. First up, Cassie Lang, and the global sort of on this path is Fancy Footwork, and this is a rough node that can make some of the more simple fights quite tricky. Every 15 seconds, all of your power is drained, unless you are performing a special attack or dodging backwards as the timer expires. This, you've got to pay attention to it, otherwise you're just going to have all of your power drained, and in later fights, particularly Prowler at the end of the path, this is tough. However, Serpent exists and he's really good for this path, so let's see why. First up, Cassie Lang. She has Adamant Axiom, which means her nodes are immune to ability accuracy modification. Also, your Salve and Willpower Masteries are removed, which is just annoying. And she's also immune to Cold Snap, so no using Kate Bishop here. Let's see how this fight actually works. There's a whole lot of nodes on here, but let's break down the fight from a more heuristical sense. Every 12 seconds, she is going to rotate between evading all basic attacks, and then 15 seconds later, she will cause you to miss all special attacks. And this goes backwards and forwards. When you parry her, you can gain a Pursuit passive, allowing you to ignore evade, and if you parry again, you will gain a vigilance passive, allowing you to ignore miss. These both last 15 seconds. This fight you would think would be quite simple. You've just got to rotate between those two modes and keep her locked down, but as always, there's more to it than that. First off, Beast of Burden means that for every debuff on her, any subsequent debuffs have a 30% reduced duration. This can mean any champion that relies on stacking up debuffs just isn't going to work here. I tried Mr. Sinister for one run just to see what happened. It's bad. Don't. We also have Painful Retreat, which means every 10 seconds you are power stung for 10 seconds, though you can remove it for every 10 hits on your combo meter. Must consider this before throwing your special attack. You also have Crush Revolution, which means if you dodge back, you get a 1.2 second timer, dodge back again, and you are crushed, though this won't trigger if you're already crushed. Crushed is the debuff equivalent of Unblockable, meaning you now have an unblockable Cassie Lang to deal with. And she's also got Necrotic Boon and Psionic Control, which is just a great name for a node. But if you purify any debuffs, your controls are reversed, so let's try not to do that as well. Not that we have many purifiers in the Cosmic, Mutant and Mystic class, though if you want to use a skill champion, maybe you do. This fight can be very, very tough, particularly combined with Cassie Lang's Special 1, which will inflict you with the combo detonation debuffs, meaning you've got to land 14 hits before they all expire, or you take a burst of damage. So we've got to balance the evade and the miss, combined with the power sting, combined with her going unblockable, combined with the global fancy footwork, combined with her combo detonation. This, in my opinion, is one of the harder fights on the map. That's just what I think. You might find it simple. Personally, I really don't like this fight. There's just one too many things for me to sort of pay attention to. However, it is the first fight on the path. Use that to your advantage. I did 20 attempts at this fight on the Mutant and Mystic run before settling on a final team, just practicing. You don't need to go in first time. Have a couple of unboosted runs. It does cost you a few energy to go in and out, but if you think in the next couple of days I'm going to have a run at this path, practice this fight. On the Cosmic and skill lane, Serpent is amazing for this fight because after one special you can kind of bypass a lot of things. They can't evade, and you can't miss, so you can actually completely bypass that entire thing. So you just want to push Cassie to her special 2, and trying to get power stung too much. Serpent is an extremely good counter for this fight. On the Mystic and Mutant path, I actually ended up using Magneto. I bought in red mags for this one fight. He did a pretty good job of it actually. Get to special 3. A lot of the bleeds won't stick because of Beast of Burden, but they'll still detonate because Cassie is metal. Meaning, one special 3 does about 25% of her health with my rank 5 Ascended mags, so he's also an option. I think it cost me 2 revives with mags, and I did get a solo with the Serpent. I do have a 7-star rank 3 Serpent though, but for the Cosmic skill path I actually ran double Serpent. I brought both. Up next we have Gwenpool, and this is a much nicer fight in my opinion. She's got quite a few nodes on her, but what this boils down to is you have a reverse controls timer on you, which is going to flip your controls from reverse back to normal, reverse back to normal, and so on. Every time you dex one of her special attacks, which you may have to do in reverse, you gain a prowess, and you can only deal damage really to her with special attacks whilst you have a prowess. That's all very nice, just as long as your reverse controls are pretty good. Do note her special attacks will be unblockable, and because of Matador, the only way for you to gain power in this fight is by gaining 1 bar every time she throws a special attack. If she does hit you, you have a problem though, because after 6 seconds you die. No ifs, no buts, you die. But you can remove this timer if you land a light ending combo. So don't get hit, and realistically that's all there is to this fight. She loves to throw special 1s, so just bait the special 1, dex it, hit her, throw your special 1 because Matador's given you the power, bait her special 1, on repeat. Again, I used Serpent on the Cosmic and skill path, but pretty much anyone could take this fight. And on the Mutant and Mystic one, I used Onslaught. He did a pretty good job here, very slow with Onslaught. You can sort of build to your special 2 and get degens going, but she only takes damage during the special attack. So as soon as your special attack finishes, back to problems. She's pretty easy to heavy counter though if you do want to go down this path, or just spam special 1. That works absolutely fine as well. That's what I did with Serpent, just special 1 spam. You could go to special 3 with Serpent, special 3 then special 1 spam. That would work just fine as well. Up next we have Iron Fist, and this is a fight that took me a while to get into it, but once you get into it, it's actually not too bad. Let's see why. First up, I am Root. You are rooted during his special attacks. That's not too bad, but you'll also be rooted every 12 seconds for 4 seconds unless you're performing a special attack when the timer expires. So you will be rooted a fair amount in this fight. Ebb and Flow Heavy means we have to knock him down every now and again so we can actually do some damage to him, or at least proper damage, but you'll gain a 30% critical damage passive when you do. Pressure Gauge, though, is the really annoying node in this fight. It will start off with a value of 5, and whenever you strike him, you will gain a charge, and whenever you block an attack, you will lose a charge. If it gets to 0, you will lose all of your power, which Fancy Footwork is also doing. But if it gets to 10, you take, guess what, a big burst of damage. And then, regardless of outcome, it's reset to 5. 5 hits is all you have to work with at the start of this fight, so you really have to take it slowly. Also, every time you block an attack, Iron Fist will go inexorable for 4 seconds, meaning that you can't knock him backwards. That's what Serpent gets, so he stays where he is. Also, whenever you block an attack, you will gain a non-stacking Bulwark passive. This is nice. On a parry, it's increased to 90% block proficiency increase, which is great. And whenever you strike their block, you also gain power. I think you also gain power whenever you dex his attacks. This is a slow fight. However, that doesn't mean we can't benefit from some of the nodes. On the Cosmic Skill run, I used Kate Bishop because she deals critical cold snaps, so getting extra 30% critical damage is phenomenal for her here. She can really stack up a lot of damage over time, and then you can slow play it. You can easily heavy counter him because you're rooted during his specials, and his specials are fairly trivial to deal with, though they do hit really hard in this fight. I don't know why, they just hit really hard. And for the Mutant and Mystic path, I again used Onslaught. Phenomenal champion here, easy heavy counters, get the degens ticking, life is good. Just watch Pressure Gauge. You'll think, oh great, I can punish him. You're going for a combo, you're halfway through your combo, and you just die because you weren't watching Pressure Gauge. You've got to count, you've got to be careful. But apart from that, not too bad a fight. Up next, we have Toad, and a quick reminder, you do not need a Poison Immune champion for this Toad. Don't bring a skill champion, but you do not need a Poison Immune one. Toad is immune to all shocks, that's probably so you couldn't use Nimrod when he came out to begin with, and he does also have Obstinate Charge, which is a very annoying node, which is the one wherever they dash forward, he's stun immune, so you have to either reparry him, then he goes on cooldown. It's just an all-round annoying node. He also has Wounded Animal, meaning whenever his regeneration buffs or passive are removed from him, or prevented from triggering, you take a burst of damage. So if you've got a champion that strips off regeneration, don't use them here. However, we can use Restrict and Refute to intercept him and remove his prowess. This is good. His prowess increases poison potency, so keeping them down will keep the poisons at a much lower level. And with just a little bit of willpower healing, you can pretty easily handle 1 or 2 poisons on you if the prowess is low. If the prowess is high, yeah. Toad's AI isn't a huge fan of being intercepted here. He's not as passive as he was first time round, but he is a little bit hesitant at times, so again, don't get tilted if he's not playing into your intercept. The problem nodes here come from Prowess build-up and I Reveal My Trap card. Prowess build-up unblockable means that if he has 3 or more Prowess buffs or passive, his specials are passively unblockable. Just assume his special attacks are going to be unblockable. That then comes with his I Reveal My Trap card, which means for the duration of his special attacks, you are inflicted with root or reverse controls. This starts with root, so you're going to have to dex 1 rooted, then the next special attack you'll have reverse controls, then the next one is root, reverse controls, and so on. If you can deal with Toads being Toad and keep the prowess down, this fight isn't too bad. Do not push him into his corner. If you do that, then he's going to be triggering lots of regen, and that's bad. We do have the always forward node, so he can't heal more than where you started at, but keep the fight in the middle of the screen or towards your side so you don't risk it. For the Cosmic Skill path, definitely want a Cosmic here, don't bring a skill. I used Serpent, surprisingly enough, given he's my only Cosmic available. He actually did a really good job of it. Special 1 spam, I know Serpent likes to keep the opponent in the corner, didn't need to. Special 3 into Special 1 spam was absolutely fine. For the Mystic and Mutant path, I actually used Sinister. He was really good here, can throw those poisons back onto Toad. I ended up a full yellow bar because we can heal from our own bleeds as well. Really solid counter here. Up next we have Heimdall. This is a really divisive fight. I have seen a lot of very, very good players say they hate this fight. I don't get it. I'd have no issues with this fight at all. Let's have a look at it in more detail. Firstly, Heimdall, he will have some slightly janky AI because he loves throwing heavy attacks, and whilst he throws heavy attacks, you will be rooted, so make sure you can dex his heavy attack. It's that one jab and then 2 hits closer together. We'll explore his heavy attack in a little more detail in a moment. He's immune to all nullify, stagger fate, still sort of jazz. But a more important node is Assault Battery. Heimdall takes no damage at all, and all that damage goes into his battery. Whenever you knock him down with a special attack, the battery is emptied and he takes 200% of the damage in that battery. However, whenever you are knocked down, you take the damage in the battery instead. So if you charge up that battery and then you get knocked down, it's lights out. Let's see why knocking him down is annoying. Heimdall will start the fight with an indefinite brace passive. And what this means is it's basically Doctor Doom's aura. You can't knock him down, or he'll go unstoppable when you do knock him down. However, if you interrupt his heavy, it will disable this for 12 seconds, paused during your special or heavy attacks. This is why his heavy being jab, jab, jab is really important, because there is time in there for him to go jab, then you can poke him whilst you're rooted, he'll probably be unstoppable, and then the final 2 hits come up. So if you can just tap him after the first hit of his heavy attack, you can turn this node off pretty easily. Heavy hitter causes him to be unstoppable during his heavy attacks, and Matador means that the only way we can gain power in this fight is from him throwing specials. Whenever he throws any special, we get him 1 bar of power. Under pressure means dashing back twice too close together will put a disorient passive on you, meaning that it's sort of harder to parry him, though this isn't a huge deal because we're just going to be baiting heavies anyway. It will reduce your block proficiency, so the block damage will hurt a bit more. And due to our last 2 nodes, Heimdall likes to throw special attacks, which is good. Stick to the special 1 though, the special 2 is a big problem. And he also has a 60% increased chance to evade or auto-block you. It's just auto-blocks for this fight, and whenever he does, he gains 1/3 of a bar of power. What this basically means is you can fight him completely normally, just you can't knock him down, until you tap him during his heavy attack, and then you do bonus damage. The AI is sometimes a bit weird. He might throw a heavy attack from halfway across the screen and you're just rooted, but honestly, build a load of damage, knock him down. Fight's quite easy for me. Some people really struggle with it, and that's fine. There are fights here that I find easy, you'll find hard, and fights I despise you will run through quite easily. For the Cosmic and Skill path, I used Kate Bishop, just got those cold snaps ticking, and then knocked him down and deleted him in 1 tap. And for the Mutant and Mystic path, well, we used Onslaught again. He was phenomenal for this path. You just get the Neuros, the degens ticking, knock him down, boom, it did 1.5 million damage. No issues at all. Last up on the path, we have Prowler. If you are immune to power drain, burn, or steal, then you'll lose, guess what, a big chunk of your health, so make sure your champions aren't immune to them, but you can be resistant. For example, Serpent is 60% resistant to one of these, so that is absolutely fine. Do note though, that whenever you are power drained, or your power is stolen, then you will lose some health. It's not a huge amount, but it does add up over the course of the fight, and remember whenever you throw a special attack against Prowler, any remaining power is drained. We also have Fancy Footwork to deal with, that's going to be draining your power. We also have Plagued Mind to deal with, that's going to be draining your power. So throwing anything after a special 1 in this fight can be quite tricky. And this is a big problem because of Resonating Aegis. Every 30 seconds, Prowler will go indestructible. Maximum of 1 stack, but he will gain an indestructible passive. Whenever you activate a special attack, you reset this timer and remove 1 charge. However, if you use the same special attack twice in a row, you add 1 charge instead, meaning you need to alternate special 1, special 2. I don't think you can reach special 3 in this fight without additional power gain. This is also Prowler, so punishing his special attacks is going to be extra annoying. And we've got On the Prowl again, meaning that whenever you go over a bar of power, you are power locked for 1 second, so you can't even, special locked, not power locked, you can't even sort of combo over a bar of power and then hit him. So there are 3 sources of power drain in this, which is really quite annoying. We also have Now You See Me, meaning whenever you parry him, You gain a falter charge, 5 charges, they're all consumed, and you'll be faltered for 7 seconds. Finally, charging your heavy will, guess what, also drain all of your power, which will deal you a burst of damage from the other nodes, though you will gain a big fury for doing this. I don't understand why this node here doesn't make any sense. Finally, if you don't hit him for 6 seconds, you will also gain a small incinerate on you. This is bad because that will massively increase Prowler's damage. This fight isn't, on paper, too complicated. You just have to throw Special 1, Special 2, and, deal with him being Prowler. In reality, this can be quite tricky. The fight seems easy, and actually I'd recommend starting with a Special 2 because you're going straight into the fight, so you've got the full 30 seconds to get to your Special 2, rather than sort of having maybe 25 seconds if you've gone for the Special 1 first. That's my opinion. It did alright for me. On the Cosmic Skill path, again, Serpent, phenomenal here. He counters all the miss, and he got his own power gain, and he's resistant to power drain, so he is pretty good for this fight. On the Mystic and Mutant path, I use Magneto because Prowler's metal, and also Onslaught because he can bypass a lot of Prowler's miss. Just make sure with Onslaught that when you throw your Special 2, you may have just removed all of your Neuroshocks, meaning you can't bypass miss until you inflict another one. Of course, then we follow up with Ares, but more on him in a second. Right, last path. This path you have to take with Mutant and Mystic, and this is the Spider-Ham path. The node here is against the ropes. Whilst the defender's back is up against their wall, you will take 25% of their attack as direct damage whenever you strike them with contact hits. Keep the fight in the middle of the arena, or use attackers with non-contact attacks, and this node is nowhere near as bad as Fancy Footwork. First up on the Piggy path, we have Piggy. You will be permanently heal blocked, so no willpower coming from that, but this fight actually isn't as bad as you might think it would be. We need to make sure that we aren't purifying or cleansing any of his debuffs, as guess what? More burst damage for you, though whenever he blocks an attack, it will purify a debuff of you, so don't hit into his block if you can help it. This fight revolves around getting as many debuffs on yourself as possible, and this includes his power stings. Not Afraid of Stings will reduce the damage you take when you activate a special attack for each debuff on you, such that once you're at 3, you won't take any damage at all. And if you reduce all of the damage down to nothing, the defender, Spider-Ham, takes 200% of the damage that you would take. So, build debuffs on yourself. You've got the taunt from his special 1, and then a couple of power stings as well that he'll get, when he evades and so on. And then reflect all of that damage. Turn the Tide means that you've got to basically use the special attack that it tells you to, but you can always just dance around and wait if you want it to come to a certain special attack. What I like to do is hover on the border, so to 1.9 or 2.9 bars of power, and then wait for it to rotate. If it rotates to, say, 2 bars, then I can just use it straight away. If it's 3 bars, a couple of hits, and then use it, and we're good to go there. Gives you options. One too many hits will also place additional debuffs on you. This fight really isn't too bad. I used Onslaught for it, and he did a very, very good job, but really, most mutants will be able to do this. Mystics, class disadvantage, wouldn't recommend, but still work fine. Up next, we have Viv Vision. The first node here is Demon Mimic. If you parry her, then she's going to go invisible. Best not to do that. But also, you need to change what attacks you end your combo with. If you don't, every 12 seconds you will get an evade passive. This isn't too bad, it's just an evade, like most champions, and it's perfectly predictable. But just know that it's coming. She's also armor break immune, but with the champions we have on offer, that's not really going to happen. But like many other fights, if you're immune to something here, she's going to gain a load of power, 15% of her max power over 3 seconds. But at least it's not big burst damage. Whenever you knock the defender down with a heavy attack, you've got 10 seconds to use a special attack, or guess what? Big burst of damage, and it's a big one, 50% of your max health. Now, this fight is really based around can you dex the special 1. Whenever she throws a special attack, any contact hits must be parried. Otherwise, for each one, burst damage, 10% of your maximum health per hit. So if she throws the special 2, that's gonna hurt, because parrying all of those attacks is very, very difficult. You will also be rooted during her special attacks, which doesn't help either. Simply dex the special 1, And really this fight doesn't have too much to offer. I used Kushala here, throwing her special 2, really ticked her down with that Soul Barb. You can't use the special 1, Viv is Nullify immune. Up next on the path we have Annihilus. He, again, will heal block you and is also immune to armor break, so similar to Viv like that. But here we also have buffed up, meaning you need at least 3 buffs on you in order to deal any damage. Necrotic Boon Firearms Expert means that for every non-contact attack on his special attacks, you need to parry it. So that's the blast on the special 1, but also all of those beams on the special 2. Stick to the special 1 for this fight. If you push to the special 2, it's going to really hurt, because guess what? More burst damage. How fun. Also, whenever the defender is struck, that's him, there's a 15% chance you will be inflicted with a Stifle debuff. The problem with this is, against Annihilus, whenever you dash back, he goes, and you have a Stifle on you, he will go unstoppable, and the Stifle is removed. Really keep an eye on this, but we can't purify or cleanse these, because guess what? More burst damage if you try and do that. I used Red Magneto for this fight. He did a very, very good job. Annihilus is metal. We use that to our advantage. Up next, we have Moleman. The main node in this fight is Hubris. Moleman will take massively reduced damage, though during his special attack he will take regular damage, and after the special attack he will take 350% of the damage that he took during the special attack. Normally we'd use Power Stings against this sort of node, but with Mutant and Mystic we can't really do that, so we'll explore what other options we have. Moleman also has the Standing in Fear node, meaning that whilst you're close to him, he will gain fatigue debuffs, but he's just going to cleanse those off and trigger his Monster Mass, or Frenzy mode, I think it is for Moleman, once he gets to 20 of those. Spite, I'm sure we've seen many times before. Any buff on you gives him power. And Tranquility, after 25 seconds, and every 25 seconds after that, will remove all buffs, debuffs, and power from both champions. Finally, Moleman is stun immune, but we also have Bubble Shield to deal with, so after every 10 hits, his next one is unblockable. Given I hold the world record for this fight using Onslaught, that's who I used for this fight, a very simple one. With Onslaught, because you get some degens going, he throws a special attack, and he will take a huge amount of damage afterwards, because he takes 315% of that degen damage. I know a lot of other people use Kushala, get her damage over time going. Moleman throws special attacks, takes a huge amount of damage there. Use Spite to your advantage in this fight. Keep him throwing special attack. If you can't get an opening because you don't want to intercept him, or because he's being debuffed, he's stun immune, it's not helpful, just Dex. Wait for his power to go up, bait the special 1. There is a chance, Spite, he just locks up, goes to special 3, try not to get tilted, it's just what happens. Many good options for this fight. Onslaught and Kushala are my top 2. Next up, we have Dani Moonstar. Her combo will go up at 5 combo every second, and every time you parry you'll get a charge. After 3 charges, she will falter you for 7 seconds, though you can strike her block to remove those charges. Do remember, striking Dani's block, she can also falter you that way. She's also immune to a bunch of true effects, so we can't use those to bypass the falter here. What this fight really comes down to is, can you dex Dani's special 2 or not? If you can't, you're going to have a bad time. If you can, this fight isn't too bad. Dani herself is special 1 locked, so she can only throw special 2s and special 3s, and she has power focus 2, meaning below special 2 she'll gain a lot of power, and above special 2 she'll gain really not very much at all, so it's special 2s all the way. She has special 2 bias, so she's more likely to throw her special 2 as well, meaning it's not difficult to bait it out from her. We can't remove the prowesses she gained because just deserts, well, more burst damage, hooray. And also, whenever she gains a prowess, she will gain a passive impact charge, granting 90% block penetration. So, can you dex the special 2 or not? You can really use anyone here. I used Onslaught because he can bypass Dani's miss. It costs me more revives than I care to admit. I can dex Dani's special 2 most of the time, and then the times I can't, you're just going to die. If you can dex Dani's special 2, you'll be fine. If you can't, learn. Finally on this path we have Tigra. It's a horrible fight, strap in. Tigra's senses are increased by 100% of their regular duration, and every 12 seconds she will gain an unblockable buff. If you are far away though, you will gain it instead. She is also immune to all damage over time effects, so that's, all red damage pretty much, which is not great. What's annoying about this fight is neutralizing aura. whilst you are close to her. After 2 seconds, you'll be neutralized. And this is a massive problem for Tigra specifically. On most fights, this would be fine. But against Tigra, if you try and trigger a buff while you're neutralized, she's just going to inflict you with massive amounts of rupture damage. If you're immune to anything, guess what? Burst damage, so we can't even do it that. Which kind of leads to a lot of problems. And the only way I got through this fight was literally parry heavy. That was it. You parry heavy for 1.4 million health. You will be rooted during her special attacks as well, so try and stick to her special 1, though if you can dex root her special 2, do that as well. Ugh, it's a bad fight, this one. It's a bad fight. Parry heavy, that's all I got. I used every champion on my team, and I think a couple of team refills. It's a bad fight. And now, the big man himself, Ares. At this point, I have to apologise. Without proper footage of this fight, I can't really explain exactly how it works. And I don't really fancy going through the entire quest again, dropping a whole bunch of revives and so on, just to get to this boss. So, I will, again, link Simula's guide to the Ares boss fight. He breaks it down better than I would. I've watched the whole video multiple times. It is a very good breakdown. Please use that instead of me. If you want to just pretend it's my voice saying it, that's fine, but the information in it is really good. Just know that this fight will test your ability to not throw your phone across the room. Practice, practice, practice those particular sets of movements that you need for the special attacks. Again, I'll let Sim explain those. But yeah, sorry, I can't break it down without footage. Not really. Not properly. Also, this video is nearly an hour long, so, cut me some slack. So, there you have it. The paths of the Epoch of Pain. I hope you found this video helpful in some shape or form, and drop me a like if it does indeed. Apologies again about Ares. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly, and I can't do it properly, so I'm not going to do it. If you have any questions, please ask them down below, or consider joining the Discord server. A great place to get specific advice, make suggestions about future video topics, and while I'm awake, I do my best to be there as much as possible. Thank you, and I will see you next time.